Today, we're going to dive into one of the most incredible stories on our entire planet: how a single tiny seed can become something absolutely magnificent. We are going to uncover the secret blueprint of a plant's life, step by step. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? You hold this tiny, hard, seemingly lifeless thing in your hand, and somehow it has everything it needs to become a towering tree or a beautiful flower. So, how on earth does that amazing transformation actually happen?
Well, it all comes down to a secret blueprint. It's a hidden life cycle that guides every single step of a plant's journey. And right now, we're going to decode that blueprint together, stage by amazing stage.
But before we can follow the life of just one plant, we kind of need to know how scientists make sense of the entire plant kingdom. So, first things first, we've got to sort all the green stuff. Now, this might sound super scientific and complicated, but I promise you it's something you already do. If you've ever organized your bookshelf or even just your sock drawer, you've been classifying. It's really just about creating order out of chaos so we can understand things a little better. Think of it like this. On the left, you've got total chaos, just a big jumble of plants. But on the right, you have order. See, scientists sort plants into basic groups based on how they're built, like trees with their big woody trunks, bushy shrubs, soft-stemmed herbs, and flexible grasses. It's the very first step to figuring out who's who in the plant world.
Okay, so now that we've got some order, let's start our journey at the very, very beginning, with the seed itself. You can think of it as the blueprint in a box.
A seed is, for all intents and purposes, a tiny little plant that's fast asleep in a box. And get this, it even has its lunch packed for the trip. Inside, it has special seed leaves that are just packed with food, all wrapped up in a tough protective layer called a seed coat. It's the perfect little survival package, just waiting for the right moment to spring into action. All right, now for the drama. The seed is in the ground, the conditions are just right, and it is time for the great escape. This is the moment the plant begins its big journey into the world. And that big breakout moment, it has a name: germination. This is the official start of the plant's life, the exact point when the seed wakes up from being dormant and finally begins to sprout. So, what wakes the seed up? What's the alarm clock? Well, it needs a pretty simple recipe with 3 key ingredients. And you can remember it with the word wow: water, oxygen, and warmth. If it doesn't have all 3 of those, that seed is just going to stay asleep. Once germination kicks off, it's a real battle for survival. The very first thing to appear is a tiny root, and it pushes down into the soil to find water and to anchor the plant in place. Then a little shoot has to fight its way upward, always reaching for that essential sunlight. So our young plant has escaped the seed, but it's still running on that packed lunch it started with. To truly grow, it needs to become self-sufficient. It's time to start building with light. This young plant is now called a seedling. It starts growing a stem, which acts kind of like a highway, transporting water all the way up from the roots. The stem also gives it support, holding up the plant's very first true leaves. And believe me, those leaves have a huge job to do. Because this is where the real magic happens. The leaves act as the plant's own personal kitchens. They take 3 simple ingredients: sunlight, water from the roots, and carbon dioxide from the air, and they literally cook up their own food. This incredible process is called photosynthesis, and it's what gives the plant all the energy it needs to live and grow. So, our plant is now mature. It's grown big and strong by making its own food. But it has one more critical job to do. It has to ensure there's a next generation. And this brings us to the flower's secret mission. We see them as these beautiful, fragrant decorations, right? But what are flowers really for? The truth is, they are not just for show. They are incredibly sophisticated machines designed for one single critical purpose: reproduction. It all starts with a process called pollination. And really, all that means is moving a yellow powder called pollen from the male part of one flower to the female part of another. This can happen on the wind, in the water, or most famously, by hitching a ride on a helpful insect like a bee. Now, listen closely, because pollination is just the delivery service. The real main event is called fertilization. This is the exact moment when a tiny cell from that grain of pollen actually joins with a cell inside the female part of the flower. That connection is what creates the genetic blueprint for a brand new seed. And once fertilization is complete, the flower goes through this amazing transformation. It doesn't need its bright, flashy petals to attract pollinators anymore, so they usually just fall away. Then, the base of the flower starts to swell up and develop into a fruit. And the fruit's number one job is to act as a protective case for those precious new seeds growing inside.
And with that, the mission is complete. The plant has successfully created the next generation, which brings us full circle. Now, it just has to get those seeds out into the world so the whole cycle can start all over again.
And to do this, plants have evolved some seriously clever strategies. Some seeds actually grow little wings so they can be carried by the wind. Others are waterproof, designed to just float away on water. And many are hidden inside a tasty fruit, hoping an animal will come along, eat them, and, well, deposit them somewhere new later on. It's all about giving the next generation the best possible shot at finding a good place to grow. So let's just recap this whole incredible journey. We start with the blueprint in a box, the seed. With the right conditions, it germinates, fighting its way into the world as a seedling. Then, fueled by photosynthesis, it grows into a mature plant and produces a flower. That flower's mission is to create a fruit, which protects the next generation of seeds. And finally, those seeds are dispersed and the incredible cycle is ready to start all over again. So why does this one cycle matter so much? Well, because this process is what makes plants the fundamental producers of our world. Through the quiet miracle of photosynthesis, they create the food and energy that supports almost every other living thing on this planet, and that includes us. They are the literal foundation of life as we know it. So the next time you walk through a park, admire a flower, or even just bite into an apple, remember the incredible journey that made it all possible. Every single plant you see is a success story, the result of this ancient blueprint being repeated millions and millions of times over. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What will the next seed become?